another fun one today. Got Atlas here helping. Got Ryan up there. He's walking around the corner, but he's getting in one of the skid steers now. But what we got going today is a access road on a piece of property. We're going to cut this hillside back here. You can see the road we're standing on goes back around, access another part of this property. But the hillside's sliding down, so the road's getting this dirt that washes up and builds up, and now the road's uneven, so driving on it makes really difficult because this side's really low and this side's really high, so you get a little tilt. So we're going to come in and take this side down and build this side up. We'll pack it in real good, and then we'll divert a ditch along this edge here and dig it down to some pipes that go out and divert the water down to where the creek is down there. And we'll shape it up real good, pack it in, make sure it's going to stay and hold, give it leveled out, and then we'll see where we go from there. But that should be a pretty good start for today. So let's get to it. Alright, so here we're going to start cutting out the upside of the hill so we can get it down to grade so that the road going back through the access is level properly, and then we can start packing it in with one of the skid steers. But for now we're going to start cutting it back. We're just going to cut it down to grade to where it needs to be, and hopefully we'll be able to shape up that hillside here once we get that cut. Alright, now as I get this first part of the hill cut out, Atlas is going to come in on the Kubota and start tracking it in and kind of help shaping it up. Now that we're building this camera view right side of the access road up to where it needs to be for level grade.
Atlas is going to start packing it in with the tracks on the skid steer, shaping it up and kind of grading the slope to the path, or the access road, excuse me, and we'll get it packed in, and then I'll continue cutting and he'll just work his way down behind me. And as you can see, starting to shape out the road, you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like. There is kind of a really hard turn in this access road, so it will be banked a little high. If anybody sees the skid steer at an angle, now it's banked correctly in the turn to where a vehicle or a piece of equipment will be banked correctly when turning, instead of banked downhill towards the drop off, which is what we are avoiding, and that's part of the reason we're doing the regrade of this access road. So as you can see, it's starting to come together. You can get kind of idea of what it's going to look like in the end, and we'll keep going. right here, Ryan's just in the cat. He's gonna shape up that end there so we can continue cutting back this hillside. He's just moving a lot of dirt at once, that way it keeps the flow going. Alright, now Ryan's got most of that dirt. There's a big old hump in the road there. We just took out a lot of it, that way we can get our drainage ditch put in well. So he cut out a lot of that hump and used the excess dirt over on the left side of the camera, and that was just filling in, packing up that left side like we were talking about earlier to flatten that road out a whole lot. As you can see, it already looks a lot better. You can see he's packing it in, tracking it in now. We'll continue cutting this hill behind us, and Atlas finishing coming behind me, and we'll meet in the middle here. Then we'll be able to start our cut in for our drainage for water, and then we'll put the culvert pipe in. We'll end up doing 2 culverts as we've discovered here. Just the way the land lays, it's going to be way easier to do 2 culverts and have 2 separate drains. That way we don't overload one side or the other and distribute that water properly along. So let's get back to it. Alright, so we got all the cutback done. Met in the middle with Ryan here, and right now I'm just going back over and kind of reaching back up the hillside a little bit to cut in a tier for the hillside, just so water doesn't take all this new cut dirt and just wash it out. And then we'll have the skid steers come behind and kind of roll their buckets over it to kind of pack it in and grade it. That way the water just flows into the drainage ditch that we'll be cutting in. So right now I'm just going to kind of take off, a tier, 3-4 feet above where we actually cut the hillside down, and that's just, like I said, to allow grade and natural flow for the water, so the hillside's not just collapsing like it was, and we end up with the same problem we had. But between cutting that tier in and shaping it up with the buckets on the skid steers, and cutting that new drainage ditch in to actually be able to take the amount of water that is actually produced when it rains down this hill. So we'll cut that in and have the skid steers come behind and shape it up, pack it in a little bit, and then we'll start cutting our drainage ditch in. Here you can see that we had a difficult little tree. It really got on my nerves and made me mad, but you'll have that on a job like this, but we ended up getting her taken care of. We're wrapping up the tier and grade on the hillside, cutting it back and shaping it up, and you can see Ryan on the cat coming behind me with the bucket and just kind of shaping it up, like I said, and he'll pack it in, and Atlas on the Kubota coming behind him just to make sure we have a real strong pack down and ready for the water that we're going to get here soon. And after that we'll get ready to start cutting our ditch in. Alright, so wrapped up the tiering and shaping. Right now the skid steers are just going to track it in real good, pack it down, and then I'll work my way back up to the crest of the hill, and that's where we'll start the drainage ditch coming down, and that'll go to one culvert, and then the other crest the other way will meet and go to another culvert. Like we talked about before, we're gonna have to put in 2 just to keep up with the amount of water we're gonna have in this drainage ditch, and in order for it to not erode away like it was before, we're gonna end up putting 2 in. Alright, so finished packing that in. I made my way back up to the crest of the hill, and I'll start cutting in the drainage ditch now. Just got to make sure when we're cutting this in that we're getting the correct pitch. Really won't be too big of a factor after we get down the crest in this hill, because the ground naturally is pretty sloped already to where we want it to go, but got to make sure that we get it to depth on this crest here, and then after that we'll track it in, and then we'll shape it, and then the skid steers will come back after we shape it and track it in, just so the water is staying in that drainage ditch and actually going to the culverts where we need it to go. Alright, so finished cutting out the drainage ditch from the crest of the hill down, and now I'll take the mini and I'll track the actual ditch in, and that's just because the mini track will fit right in that ditch. Pack it down real good so the water will flow and not just settle down in the drainage ditch dirt. Then after that, the skid steers will come behind and they'll actually track in the edge, making sure that it's higher so that when the water comes down off that hill, it won't just roll over into the road. And that way we keep the water directed on where we want it. So right now, I'll just track it in with the mini, and I'll go back and forth 3 or 4 times. And in doing that, you'll see any imperfections in the ditch, and then I can touch those up along the way as we go and repack those in at the same time. That way you don't have any bumps or hills. You know, dirt's going to settle already, so you want to try and get as good as you can on the grade and pitch. So you'll see me touch up, I think there's 2 or 3 spots, there might be more. And you can eyeball these, you don't have to get a transit out or anything like that. Just because of the project's an access road, so as long as water goes where water's supposed to be, then you're good. And on this big of a pitch, you know, you really don't have to worry about that a whole lot. It's going to go downhill where we need it to go. So alright, so now I got the actual ditch tracked in. We'll let the skid steers take over for a minute, and they'll come and track in the side there like I was talking about earlier, and we'll get it shaped up, packed in real good, and then finish packing in the dirt that we threw on the outer edge of the road when I was cutting in that drainage ditch there, and we should be in good shape. Alright, so while Ryan finished packed the first drainage ditch in, I'm going to finish up cutting in the drainage ditch on the other side of that crest of the hill, and then we'll track it in, shape it up just like Ryan's doing over there. Atlas will come in and track it in, shape her up, and then Ryan will come back and extra track it in just to make sure it's good and packed so it can keep up with the water. And then we'll put our culvert in, and that'll be a wrap for the day. Alright, so now I'm going to dig out for the culvert pipe to go in, and after that we'll backfill over the culvert and track it in real good. Then we'll have to do a little reshaping. We're going to leave it a little high just when it settles around the culvert pipe. That way it'll be nice and smooth on the access road after everything settles. And that'll be a wrap for the day. We'll have to come back in and put one more culvert pipe in, but that'll be a different day. Alright, now we got our culvert pipe laid. I'm going to dig out at the end there just to make sure the water has room to flow out so it doesn't get clogged or backed up and defeat the whole purpose of the whole project. So I'll clean that out at the end there so it has a place to flow, and then we'll backfill it up, track it in, smooth it out, make it look pretty, and then we'll be back another day to put in that second culvert and call it a day. right, y'all, that's a wrap for the day. Got one culvert in, got one culvert left. That's all that we have to finish this project up. Got it looking good, and functionality wise should be good to go with all the water that is going to be coming down the hill. Again, appreciate all the comments anybody wants to throw out there, and love the subscribers. Appreciate the following. That's how we're getting our name out there, and love to y'all.